is highly inevitable that if you can't stop imagining making a certain demon as an Edwardian lady, and that if you then realize this idea through actually making it, then you will start to wonder the same thing about a certain angel, which then starts you imagining what an outfit for an angel in 1908 would look like, and if you could even do it. And thus you are drawn, mostly against your better judgment perhaps, into the construction NATO that is Edwardian tailoring. This is one of those such times. But what was I getting myself into? Sewing a gown and tailoring are two entirely different concepts, as I would quickly learn. In one, the seams themselves shape the garment. In the other, it's the internal structures, fabrics, and hand stitching that do a lot of the work, most of which will never even be seen once everything is lined. This did not discourage me in the slightest, however, and so I landed on this outfit which, if I can make it and successfully navigate the pitfalls, will make a charming ensemble for the autumn weather that is just starting to arrive. A good suit with walking skirt and matching jacket was a necessary outfit in both Europe and the United States at the turn of the century. In my case, I will be making the skirt, vest, and jacket close to the colors in Aziraphale's Good Omens outfit. The fabrics I chose for this project were a tan wool suiting with a subtle stripe from Fabric Mart, a chocolate silk velvet from Silk Baron, the cotton scraps for my dahlia dress for linings and interlinings, and linen canvas and horsehair for structure. Then it was off to Fabric Mart again to get a brown tweed for the skirt. It's always best to start from the layers closest to the skin to the farthest, so your support garments make the right look, and to be certain your layers fit over each other. I sadly have very, very, very few images of my construction of the vest, since it was a construction NATO after all. Mostly what I learned is pad stitching and herringbone stitch, as well as a Welt pocket, which I wanted specifically to hold my pocket watch. And once this layer was complete, I could then begin work on the most difficult part, the jacket. I drafted the pattern with the tapes from the book, and then cut out the bodice pieces out of the cotton, which I used as my mock-up and then altered to fit my body shape better. There were actually not very many alterations. Then I used the updated pieces to cut out the canvas pieces and the fashion fabric. I decided to use the cotton pieces as an interlining, but also my first attempts at using fabric marking through all of the layers did not work very good. So I just stitched each piece separately, also using some large basting stitches to keep the central parts in place as well. So I have everything on the dress form that's going to go underneath the coat, and I think that's really important because oftentimes we forget that part and then everything ends up being too tight. So all of the pieces are sewn together. I figured out how to do vents. That's what those things are in the back. I am doing this as I go, right? We've installed the collar. This is exciting, like it's starting to look like a thing and it's not looking too bad. Actually, I am using this book, which has all these great pictures from this time period. So like there's a whole section on this. And so now we're going to proceed to this part here where we're going to add more stiffness and horsehair and stuff like that at the center front. Let's do this. Initially, I planned to use canvas in both the front piece and the side front piece, but due to the interlining that was already in, it seemed like too much. So I decided to install only the side front canvas piece. Side note, placing both these pieces together is how I figured out the shape of the horsehair bust pad. I really struggle with understanding pattern instructions sometimes, and the photos of this were difficult to see. But this is what I decided to do. I pad stitched the horsehair to the cotton and then roll hemmed it back up around the rough edge. Several hours later, we have a pad stitched pad. I gotta make another one, and then we're gonna stitch this up. And instead of a seam at the dart, I tightly zigzagged the edges together instead. But before installing the bust pads, I stitched in the center front facing, part of which will be folded back for the lapel, and based on the pictures in the book, I pad stitched the part that would be folded over, which hides the pad stitches and creates a lovely shape. We have the horsehair pad here that's been sewn separately and then installed. In this case, installed meant whip stitching to the internal layers, not the fashion fabric. It's great. I recommend. Okay, now I know why the canvas matters. Do you see the difference between both of these sides? Like loosey-goosey, wrinkly. This right here, this is in place, laying well, like very nice. There's probably nothing in this video that's going to be able to convey the dopamine I'm getting right now just from this little bloop, bloop. Next, it was time to pad stitch the horsehair to the undercollar using the interesting patterns in the book. And then by some sort of miracle, the top of the collar is attached. So I'm taking up the hem now, and I'm gonna, whatever, herringbone stitch it. We have these vents in the back, right? Never done vents, had to look this up. I learned this really cool trick from this modern tailor creator that I have been following. I'm gonna link them in the description. Like, look at these cool little corners that you can do just by sewing them. I'm pretty, like, I don't know, I guess the word is chuffed. Okay, so here's the guts. Pad stitched hair cloth area where we added the canvas. Then, you know, this part is pad stitch. This going over the shoulder. Then we've got this here, lots of structure that you're never gonna see. I think like pretty much anyone, I struggle with sleeves. I did cut them down a bit before realizing that the instructions were telling me to ease in the elbow. Oh well. I pad stitched the cuffs on the wrong side with canvas to give them more body, sew the sleeve together, and then ease the sleeve into the coat. And then it was time to attempt pockets. I drafted a flap from another pattern in the book since this pattern doesn't have them, but the Aziraphale coat definitely does. Then some more miracles occurred, mostly from following the instructions of another modern tailor I will also link in the description. Okay, I don't have my corset on and everything, so the fit on this is not quite right, but mind blown! I have a pocket now! Now I have to somehow miraculously figure out how to do the same thing over here. I did in fact make the second pocket. Nothing bad happened. Then I successfully stitched 2 buttonholes and 2 buttons at center front. I also added what the book refers to as wadding to the sleeve heads just to give a little more stiffness. And now all the internal bits are done in the jacket. Now we just need to line it. I'm definitely going to go in and just add some bias here, just make some bias from the silk I have left over, because this is just a raw edge and I think it just needs to be covered up to make it look nice. Somebody didn't order enough silk, and so somebody is cobbling together several pieces in order to make the final piece of sleeve lining, which nobody hopefully will ever see anyway. Back in the adventures of piecing his period, there's a good reason why I shouldn't have cut off this random piece here. It is interesting to me how memory and emotion can be housed in something as simple as tailoring a coat. This was my first attempt at tailoring since I lost my first coat project in 2004 on a train, ironically after shopping for the perfect buttons for it in the fabric district of Manhattan. I had been making it under the instruction of the head draper in the Yale costume shop, and it was the first time I had understood just how good a fitted garment could feel. And I think I locked that memory away after being so ashamed, not knowing I had ADHD, that I left something I had worked so hard on a train. Since then, I hadn't really felt confident in trying to tailor something again. I think working on this project helped me a little to process all of that now, through the lens of what I know and who I know I am, and offer myself some grace, some love, and know that it's okay to be a human, and to be a neurodivergent one, and that we can start again. I totally wasn't expecting this at all when I was making it, but here we are. And now to finish the skirt, which we will get to next time, hopefully before the trees lose all of their leaves. Take care, salty possums, and take care of yourselves.